recording? Am I recording? I am recording.
I'm recording.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Taking some interest in learning a bit more about technology, philosophy, and I like to.
I'm an educator.
Absolutely. We're going to stay anonymous.
That's a cop-out.
Binary's gone. I thought jingle was like Dutch for cheers.
Yeah.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Beyond Binary Thinking. From Plymouth, I'm Chris.
From Cordoba, I'm Finn.
And from Amsterdam, I'm Marijn.
Whoa, where did Marijn come from? It's a voice in my head. It's just fevered imagination.
I'm always around.
Oh, good.
Somewhere.
It's because I miss you so much, buddy. How is everyone?
Not bad. Yeah, not bad. What about you?
Dude, life's good. Honestly, can't complain. Although I like to. But running out of reasons to complain about. I'm all good in the hood.
Sure, we'll find some today in the episode, eh?
Sure. That's why we have a topic today where we are talking about frustrated, annoying people that we love to hate.
What is the topic? What's the full topic today?
Yeah, explain it to me, Chris.
Conspicuous consumerism and conspicuous conscious consumerism as well.
Okay, so for the listeners that don't know what that is.
Yeah. Conspicuous means like obvious.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things to unpack here, and it'll be good to talk about. I think it intersects with a bunch of things, but the idea is that you're publicly seen to be spending money, and the way that interlocks with sort of like capitalist virtue signaling. And sharing all that shit on social media. So you have a few things. You've got Zizek's theory, that we all inherently know the evil of capitalism, and so built into every purchase we do nowadays is but this is a fair trade, free range, organic, made by vegan, lesbian, socialists from third world countries, and a proportion of everything you buy goes towards those good causes. So despite all of the inherent flaws with our current system, you, good sir, you are a hero to the people. Every purchase you make, and you should post on Instagram how everyone who doesn't buy fair trade vegan is a terrible person, and they should be shamed, and they should be ashamed.
I think the interesting thing about that is that people then feel less bad or even feel good, right, about consumerism. Whereas Zizek's point, I think, is that no, we shouldn't feel good about it. Maybe that's better, but it's still like we shouldn't feel great about consumerism, right?
Yeah, it's the idea that consumerism will save the world when will it really ever save the world? Right? We're made to be consumers. The world's maybe telling us we should stop being consumers, but then this story is sort of telling us, no, you can still be a consumer, just do it a different way.
Yeah, but before we get into the hypocrisy of it, let's just start with sort of the problems with the system, and why we hate So a big theory I have here is that we hate the successful people in the system, and we also sort of hate the unsuccessful people as well. And that's often just masking the real problem, which is the system itself, right? And it is easy to pick on rich, spoiled, entitled assholes showing off their unearned wealth, just as it's easy to have shows like Benefit Street shaming people who are poor and blaming them for their situation. And I think these are just either extremes of a system that will inevitably create both, and is the deeper problem there, rather than inherently the people who are easier to blame, the face of the problem, right?
Could you give us some examples of, because I'm still thinking last episode, about Bill Gates, about he's my hero because he's like the best billionaire, isn't he? He's definitely the best one.
So
He's done
it's
loads
a
of stuff.
good one.
Proving it for now. Yeah.
Anyway,
No, I
we
think
know.
that's worth breaking down, right? Like, so
Yeah.
there are a
But I
few
mean, like,
examples of good billionaires, right?
yeah, there's some examples, right?
And there's a lot of anti-capitalist rhetoric that goes on where they become the targets of the hatred. So it's an interesting one. I think
Right.
Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos are probably the three that are most interesting to talk about. So Bill Gates, for me, despite the demonstrable fact that he swam in the same circles as Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yeah, let's not get into that again.
No, it's fine. No, it's just already been discussed, right?
Yeah. To the listeners, if you want to look into that, look at the previous episode.
But demonstrably, he earned his wealth. He democratized computing. He brought computers to the masses, and literally to billions of people. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that his wealth is stolen is odd to me, because I'm like, well, if you made a system that 6 billion people were using, perhaps you deserve to be a billionaire.
I mean, there's the controversy is that he maybe stole some of it from Apple, right? He stole some from the Apple Mac operating system, but nonetheless, you know, he's now trying to do like laptop for every kid. Do you know what I mean? So he's trying to get like the poorest children in the world with laptop and computer and internet access, so they can like take advantage of the amazing educational power of the internet, which is sick. Also trying to cure all like preventable diseases. I reckon he's a pretty good guy, although we could be cynical about his like, why is he doing it? He's just trying to get tax breaks. Well, even if that's his real reason for doing it, he's still like making a good contribution to the world. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's like because it like helps him make a bit more money. Do you know what I mean?
And I've been guilty of this, right? Like, the only reason they give so much money away is because they get a tax break, which, funny enough, as you say, doesn't damn the person. It's also not a particularly damning indictment of the system. If the system is set up so that giving billions away to charitable causes saves you some money, then that's not bad, is it? Like, especially when you look at how much taxes are spent on weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Melanie, right. Voice in my head. You've been quiet. Speak to me.
Right. So I think is the audio good? So
lean into the mic, innit?
I think with Bill Gates, it's very much. I don't understand why there's so many conspiracy theories around him. I think it has a lot to do with jealousy that he is the person in that position. And when Chris says that, you know, he deserves to be a billionaire, I doubt that. I doubt anyone deserves to be a billionaire. I think we should have kept Fortune way lower.
I mean, if you can be a millionaire for playing basketball, I think it's fair enough you can be a billionaire for creating software that
but Chris
uses, right? Like that seems 1,000 times more valuable.
But Chris,
I'm really good at basketball.
Let me reel you back in, because you're saying that it is deserving to be a billionaire when you're a basketballer. I'm saying it's never deserving to be a billionaire, no matter what you do. Yeah, even if you were Leonardo da Vinci, you're not deserving to be a billionaire.
He didn't die rich, though, to be fair.
No, but I'm saying right now, no one does.
And was also gay.
And Bill Gates, I think he's a very smart person. I don't think he just stole his product and got rich of it. Definitely not.
No, he clearly had a lot of development.
Yeah, but he was also lucky, right? He was someone that was in the right position at the right time, having the right amount of luck behind him to trust himself into a position that, frankly, is bizarre, right? This is someone who is or was the richest person in this world for a very long time. Just because he had the right technological product at the right time. I think the question is very much, should the billionaires be saving us or should the governments be saving us? Because traditionally the role of the people that needed to take care of society was the government. And, you know, in terms of tax breaks, the government is also just pushing money around to get a little benefit here and have a little bit of expenditure there, right? If the government was just expenditure, they would not survive, right? They would not be a government. They need to tax, there needs to be income to to spend the money. So same goes for Bill Gates. It's just the question is, should Bill Gates even be in the position in the first place to be the savior of mankind? And I think when we're talking about, is he genuine? There was recently an interview where he said that he blames himself for not doing more to prepare the world for a pandemic. And at that point, I think if you're willing to take responsibility of this entire pandemic onto your shoulders, not just to solving it, but feeling it was your responsibility not to prepare the world any better. And you come from good heart, right? You come from good mind and good heart.
I saw a great breakdown of how poorly he communicates sometimes, how awkwardly he comes across, and how unlikable he appears in some interviews. And it was pretty much like this breakdown. The channel's called Charisma on Command, and it was just a breakdown of how he's clearly a nice guy who has that lack of salesmanship. And we often do this with politicians as well, people who their intentions are pure, but because they don't have the auto cue abilities and the salesman pitch, we're like, I don't like them, don't want them. And it's like, it's the opposite of what we're looking for, right? We want genuine people, but actually what we want is a good performance and a good impression of a genuine person.
Right, and then you get into populist territory, right? Which is where we are, right? We have government leaders that are able to amass global large followings, but they're not doing it based on actually being a genuine good person that wants to take care of society in a good way.
And a global leader that comes from a reality TV background.
Right.
And that is the other end of the spectrum, right? The people who are rich for conspicuous consumption and are famous for bullshit, non-meritocratic reasons. Just, they're famous for being famous. There doesn't really seem to be anything, right? And famously, Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton were porn stars done well. And I think, and the reason that went so popular is because in both cases, their dad was rich and famous. And so these kids shouldn't be doing porn for money. And that's what a lot of people don't know as well, is that in both cases, there's no way those videos would have ended up on DVD in shops had those people not signed a contract and authorized the release of those porn DVDs. So in both cases, people love the daughter of a rich person but becomes a porn star, like, for money and attention.
So sure, like with conspicuous consumption, you definitely shouldn't forget the role of the family and family wealth. And it's always easier to amass a fortune when you already have a starting fortune. Even Jeff Bezos started out with 100,000 loan from his parents. This is not the same as someone coming from a dirt poor area who will have to work his entire life for hardly any money and will never be able to amass large enough money to invest and start growing this investment, right?
Yeah,
so the system is rigged.
Can any of us three go and get a 100,000 loan? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not easy.
And for a long time, I thought, I'm not privileged. Like, I'm not getting money from my parents to start this business. But I have been thinking about that, and I do have a safety net. Yeah. Right? Like, I have a house I can bolt to if all else fails. And so even though, my parents aren't fronting the money for it, I do end up in a very privileged position, being able to take that risk.
But Chris,
there's a safety net there. So I think it does behoove people, even people that don't get a loan. You have a massive head start when your parents have a certain amount of money. Right?
For sure. You're born in the Western world. You're already in the top 25% of the richest people in this world, right? But, we measure ourselves increasingly against the top 1%, right? We see this on Instagram all the time. Conspicuous consumerism, as far as I read it, is not just about like the hipsters drinking their, fresh kombuchas and not thinking about the entire chain of consumption, but it's also the rich people showing off their power and their wealth through their consumption, which throughout the years, this has been along for a long time. The kings and the queens and the royalty and
a gold crown, a gold bejeweled crown, right?
No, but not even gold. Chocolate. For a long time, chocolate was something that was only drank by the richest aristocracy in Europe. Anyone else couldn't afford it, and this was a sign of wealth. If you could afford a cup of chocolate to drink, you were a sign of being wealthy, a sign of being powerful. People would aspire to this. And now we're in a society where this is not just done by kings and queens. This is done by every person in this world, right? We're all buying gadgets and showing them off and showing who we are, showing who our identity is through the ways we consume, because we are consumers.
That's a
Even
really
the
interesting
hipsters.
point.
Even
Yeah.
the hipsters, they buy a certain brand of products. And even the ones, which I find as well funny with the conspicuous consumerism, is, the people that want to live waste free, they travel so much, right? Which is also consumerism, right? But it's different kind of way of consumerism.
Yeah, and it's, before Instagram, it was just talking about value of life and experiences. Now it's somewhat jaded, people looking at it as, just people trying to make their Instagram accounts more fabulous. I think we can pick apart the hipster thing a bit more, because they can't win, right? Like you said it. It's
a bit like millennials, isn't it? It's like
yeah, well, if they find out that anything in their supply chain isn't ethically purchased, produced, or directed, right, then that's a red flag. Or if it is, then that will be more expensive, and then they're showing off their wealth in a way that other people couldn't. Like the whole system's broken. I don't know if you guys have seen the Good Place.
Yeah.
Is it that series about
Yeah, and the last season of that, they realized that no one's gone to heaven for 2,000 years or 1,000 years because life's just too complex now. You can't, you can buy flowers for someone, but then if you look at the supply chain of where the flowers came from, like it's all fucked.
Right.
Yeah. And everyone has a phone, right? So.
And the funny thing is, like the old Beamer meme of hipsters spending too much on avocado and lattes when instead they should be knuckling down and saving for a house. I mean, it speaks to it very clearly. Like a generation ago, the boomers, let's call them, right, could afford houses at 25 on a modest income and almost no education. That's now no longer possible. So when there's no point in saving for a mortgage because it's never going to happen,
what are you going to do?
You might as well enjoy the short term, right? Like, what are you saving for?
Right.
I mean, maybe still save some, but I mean, you're still going to try and enjoy what you've got, right? Otherwise, it's like kind of living this kind of miserly existence for what? Like,
especially when you're living in a shoebox in central London, right? Like, and your pay's going to be terrible anyway, and you're hoping that you'll get a promotion in 10 years' time, so then you can show off.
Yeah. What about Elon Musk? He's an interesting one, isn't he?
I think
because if we're talking about like benefit to society, okay, like he's doing some really cool stuff, right? Like he made PayPal, which did a lot for online payments, moving that forward. He did, Tesla, and what's the other, SpaceX, obviously, right? So he's kind of revolutionized technologically a lot of things, right? And you could say, well, it's not like Bill Gates because he's not like looking after poor people. But maybe those technologies will have a.
This is it. This is the game.
I'm not so convinced
about. You have to play
this.
when you're rich, right? It's the rules of the game, and that you have to give away, be seen to be giving away enough to appease the crowds. Now, the funny thing is, in the example of Bill Gates, he gives away as much as he can. The crowd still hate him and think they're trying to hit him with their.
And what's Musk giving?
Maybe
he is.
This is the point. Why bother? You're not going to get loved anyway. And funnily enough, actually, Musk is probably more loved because he's just like, fuck it. And comes out with some quite right-wing libertarian views, which capture the popular zeitgeist of the moment.
Yeah. The whole free America now, the lockdown thing. But then also, but to be fair, he was making ventilators. I think he switched some of his factories to make ventilators in the US. So like, it's not like he doesn't care. But
Musk, I think, perfectly
I doubt he cares.
The night and the day of capitalism, though, right? Like, so
no, but maybe
he shows up to save the kids in Thailand in the caves. Then he calls one of the divers a paedophile.
So I don't really
makes ventilators and then tells everyone to go outside and get back to work.
I don't really think he cares. I don't think he cares the same way Bill Gates cares. I think Elon Musk went into electricity in all his forms, right? It was like Tesla, and he's doing the solar panels and solar city. And I think it's more for an ego thing. He wants to be captain of industry. He wants to be, the Tesla of the electronic industry. Bill Gates wants to, right. And Bill Gates wanted to solve a problem. a human problem, a humanity problem. He wanted to solve people dying from diseases, and he wanted to solve the energy problem, and then he's investigating nuclear. But I don't think Bill Gates wants to be the captain of the nuclear energy industry. I don't think that's why he's spending all that money into research into nuclear technology. And I think it's a very different way for where Elon Musk is coming, which is a lot more to do with his ego. You know, as
how about this though? You know, like the highest level of giving and charity is like the humble give. Do you know what I mean? Where you donate and you don't tell anyone about it. Do you know what I mean? That's like, that's the top phase. So
Bezos,
how do we not? Maybe, yeah, there's like billionaires doing that and we don't even know about it. Maybe Musk is like donating 10% of his salary, you know, like we all probably should be doing.
So,
but we just doesn't tell anyone.
How's this for an oxymoron word? An anonymous press release. Have you heard that Amazon gave 50 million anonymously, and it was reported in press releases that they anonymously gave 50 million to brick and mortar bookstores the week before Amazon's new earnings were published, which obviously, like a lot of companies, they've made a huge profit in the last few months.
Yeah, of course. They're going to make loads of money because everyone's at home, wants to buy stuff still. Well, what do you do?
And that's the game. That's the social contract, is that you have to be seen to be giving it away. And I think the problem is for those that are against them and what they stand for, it'll never be enough. Like, as shown by Bill Gates, he can't do much more, right?
He can't do it. He can't really do it.
He'll still have his haters. He'll still be.
He's the most hated.
I think he's the Antichrist. Wanting to inject them with technology so they can track everyone. I love that conspiracy theory, by the way, because it's like you have a smartphone. Yeah, they are tracking you. They don't need to inject you with shit. Like,
my favorite one, just to recap to the last episode, is a meme that I saw, and it's like Bill Gates announcing his plan in a TED talk. It's like, why would anyone announce their evil plan in a TED talk? Do you know what I mean? They would try to get away with it. It's like, it's the last thing you do. Like,
this is it. It doesn't matter like how hard you try. You're going to have your haters, which is why actually I see why Elon Musk has his fans. And to be fair to the boy, you can't say it's as simple as Bill Gates solves problems, Elon Musk massages his ego. Like,
that was my point. Yeah, like he
the electric car, he pushed forwards massively, and then released the patents for it and pushed forwards the entire industry.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that he doesn't want to solve a problem. He does. I'm saying the motivation behind it is a lot more selfish and a lot differently directed. And I think that's what you're seeing now. It's becoming very clear that he wants to open the factory in America, despite the health risks that are associated, because he wants to push through this industry of his. He wants to.
He's a bit like an impatient child, isn't he? Like that he wants, like, well, we've got to open again. Come on, make these things. I don't know. Maybe that's just how it is when you're like super intelligent.
And then he threatens
a billionaire. Once you're a billionaire, it's very hard to hear no. How often does he hear no?
Right, and then he threatens to move the factory to a different state. I'm sorry, but the environmental cost associated with that. You're not going to tell me he's an environmentalist at that point. Sorry.
It's one of the biggest factories in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like a normal factory. It's like
it's called a mega factory. Yeah.
Yes. And this links into the conspicuous conscious consumerism I'm talking about. So South Park did a great piece on the Honda Pius, right? And the smog that it causes. And everyone jumped to that car, abandoned their cars, jumped to a new car. And then now everyone's bought a new Tesla. We had a big argument on Facebook, of all places, last month, or a couple of months ago now, about, actually it's terrible to buy a Tesla because the batteries and the cobalt mining. And there's some interesting points there, but at the same point, like, it's often made by right-wing pro-capitalist people who are then using it as an excuse not to do anything for the environment.
Yeah.
And once you've conceded that point, you're like, okay, so what are we doing next? Do you shut down the cobalt mines in Africa? Oh no, that's not actually your concern. Only when you're criticizing people buying Tesla. Like, it's just a thing you found, shit to throw at people when they mentioned this. Like, it was like all the people railing against anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and as soon as Corbyn won the election, you're like, cool guys, so you were really concerned about anti-Semitism last month. What are we doing now to stop? Oh, you actually didn't give a shit at all.
Yeah.
I think
there's some big anti-Semitism movement going, like, tackle the anti-Semitism.
No. Oh, you never cared. Okay, good to know. And I think that's the problem, is that you on both sides you have. It's very nice for people that can afford to buy a Prius, and then 10 years ago, and then can afford to buy a new Tesla now, and boast about how environmentally conscious they are. At the same point, like, I don't think it's valid at all. Those people are like, oh, but there should be no progress towards that thing. It's all a fucking con anyway. And the thing is, but
it is, Chris. It is. It actually is a con. And this is not. The sounds are coming from the left as well. The problem with the energy transition is that it is very hard to make any gains, any net gains. The cost of the transition outbalance any gains of the transition you have. Plus the fact that we're so limited by battery technology at the moment. We're still on the lithium ion to store any energy capacity. Our green energy are intermittent. That means that they cannot continuously produce energy. Since we can't store it efficiently either, we still need to have fossil fuels in every mix.
Or nuclear.
Nuclear, I think, is the only solution. We can talk about that. I think society should be massively carrying it right now, and it's not. And there's reasons for it, because with nuclear, the hidden costs, so the cost of the transition, the cost of not just building the facility and mining all the products that you need for that facility and logistically getting them to the place where you built the facility, but also changing the grid to accommodate for this new facility, right? All this cost included are so expensive that nuclear will be an expensive Band-Aid that we can put on. Your friend Nemo said this on Facebook this week, Chris. It's an expensive Band-Aid that we need to put on, and it will give us 30, 40 more years to make a better energy transition, right? That we carefully think about. Because right now what we're doing is we're pretending to be transitioning, but a lot of it is gain zero, but it looks marketing-wise, it looks really great.
Yeah.
We're making some gains, but not nearly enough, nowhere near enough. We're growing forests, and then we're burning them as biofuel, and then we're counting them as CO2 neutral because the trees were grown, and we're burning the trees that we grown, right? So we're not taking anything more from the system. But at the same time, when the trees were there, they were taking CO2 out of the air. And now that we're burning, we're putting the CO2 back into the air. So we're not actually gaining anything still.
Is there not an argument, and I have made this in the past, that a step towards it is good, even like perfect.
Right now we're hardly making
many iterations to get there. So the battery's not there, but now we have better electric cars. Now we have better battery. Now we have charging stations. Like, maybe the next iteration will take us closer.
The only thing you have to upgrade is the battery, right?
So my argument against that is that be careful, because what looks nice on paper might have very small print on the back. And I think we're looking very much positively at the green energy transition. I see so much hopeful sounds. And then we're not seeing the hidden figures and the hidden statements on the back of the paper of the contract that we're signing.
Definitely got to be aware of it.
I think that's a pattern that I'm seeing right now around me. And we're still so much dependent on anything that is fossil. Because so much of the source, even of green energy, is still fossil based.
So I've seen that argument taken to extreme and used incorrectly. So LPG, butane, propane, methane gas produces a lot less carbon, a lot less greenhouse gas per piece of energy than other sources, but it still gets lumped in together. And this is the thing, is that often, like, transitioning away from coal and oil to that is a massive improvement, But by a lot of the green moves, it's just
Well,
derised as, why even bother? This isn't the energy revolution we want.
not really, Chris, because it's a question and demand issue, right? The question is a certain amount of kilowatts, right? And we got to produce that somehow, whether we're burning less coal but more gas to accommodate. In fact, we're not in a stable energy requirement. We're in a growing energy demand, a fastly growing energy demand, like exponentially growing energy demand situation.
Well, if you discount the last few months, yeah.
Yeah, but
This
in
has been
general, with
interesting. So I
AI
was
technology, cloud
sad
systems,
to read that apparently even the world now as it stands is still heading for environmental disaster. Despite all the
Even though it
cars
stops,
and planes stopping, that's still not enough, which just shows that it's not about individual consumer choices. It can't be.
Well, it's part of it. I mean, the AI, we're in a technological revolution, but the technology requires energy. So we're solving everything with technology, great, and we're making giant gains in technology, but it's coming at an energy price, right? And we can see this. So how are we going to stop this energy demand from our technological growth, right? We're so reliant on technological growth to solve our problems, but our energy system can't catch up with it. And we're just burning more gas instead of oil and coal. Great, but it's still producing CO2 in our atmosphere.
It's sort of like the highways problem, right? Like, it doesn't matter how many roads you build, the demand will fill. And the argument I was about to make and jump into was, oh yeah, but look how much more efficient a car is now compared to 100 years ago, right? Which is brilliant. But the truth is that we've just used that efficiency to make bigger, faster cars, make cars cheaper for younger people to have.
You don't even need to go to a car. Look at your phone, right? Your phone has the same lithium-ion battery in it that it has for many years. It's gained a bit of improvement for sure. But the improvements have been in the chips. The chips have gone smaller. They require less energy because they've gone smaller. But you still have a giant phone with a giant battery. Why? Because we keep putting more power into our telephone because we want to have a faster car, faster telephone. So, when are we going to be satisfied? When are we going to stop them? We're going to say we're going to be satisfied here, because the solar power and the wind energy that we're trying to generate, we still need to buy a gas power plant because it's intermittent energy. So we can't rely at all on these sources that are CO2.
We can't rely entirely. We can rely to some extent. It's not completely pointless. Well, no, because like for example, Spain with solar energy, it's pretty reliable. There's towers which reflect heat, and that's consistent. Even on a cloudy day, it still works. So you need to top it up. But
I'm pretty sure that there are still large reliances on fossil fuel energy sources in Spain because it's still not enough to continuously supply.
Not entirely, but that's my point. But we can get 50%.
The problem, every expert will tell you, the problem is not getting to 50%. The problem is you need to get to 100%. And, what's going on?
You've upset Big Energy.
They're on to you. I don't see why we can't have renewable energy with nuclear. I don't know.
Hey, whose sound is it?
That's yours.
How can it be? Oh, wait, that's mine. Yeah. Sorry. No, Chris.
Some sick beats on the background.
Right. Finn, the problem is that if it's intermittent at all, you will always need to have a backup.
Yeah, like nuclear.
And the problem with but we don't have the nuclear. So right now we have coal and gas, mostly coal and gas.
Nuclear can be.
No, right now, most countries. Right now, let's just be realistic. Right now, most countries relying on coal and gas is the backup solution to any intermittent green energy solution.
Let me just interject.
The problem with
surges, right? That if you look at how people use energy, and a big part of this, I'm positive about could be fixed. But so hold that thought. I'll get into it in a sec. But just to interject here for clarity, surges, right? Like breakfast time, dinner time. That's when the grids need a sudden. And nuclear, as great as it is, doesn't until we've got the batteries in place. Nuclear you can't dial. Oh, let's go more nuclear or less nuclear. Whereas a coal or gas power station,
you can't
turn on and handle the surges, right?
No. as far as I've gathered, you keep the coal and the gas installations running continuously as well, because booting them up and down costs more energy than having them run at a constant level.
So what's wrong with nuclear then?
Nothing. It's Germany doesn't dare, because the society is completely against. The popular opinion is completely against nuclear.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that series Dark. That's probably why they're against it.
And then HBO is making Chernobyl. I mean, the public is scared of nuclear. But
yeah, like, it's not doing any favors, is it?
We continuously have coal and gas running, and we're not booting them up and down because it costs us more to boot them up and down. So we're hardly getting anything by putting green energy there when it's not fully supplying continuously the same amount of power, or unless we can store it. But we can't store it. We don't have the battery capacity in the world to store it.
So we need better batteries.
No, we did a different battery technology than lithium.
But that would change everything, right?
They're working on it.
Green viable, right?
That would make green viable, yeah, but the clock's ticking, right? The clock's ticking. So I think, personally, we're still talking about how can we supply the growing energy demand. There's only one way, which is to reduce the energy demand massively, fast, globally.
I think I'm with you on that one.
And then you talk about consumerism, right? Then you're talking about why are we retrieving our identities from the products that we buy?
Well, why? That's a good question, isn't it? Do you think it's to do with media? I have a feeling it's somewhat to do with media and probably psychology.
Always, but
right?
media is just a reflection of what people want. Like, there's this mass psychology going on of like we're addicted. We've evolved to know what the rich people are doing and what the rich people like and what the rich people are eating. That concern, right? We thought social media would like free us to be an international community and credit it's incredibly like a school playground where we're just obsessed with gossip and what the popular kids are doing. Literally keeping up with the Kardashians is very appropriately named. They really do know what they're doing. Like, people are obsessed with what the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Like, what are you guys up to?
Not just social media, but talking about media more generally, right? Television, films, all of the media, not just social media. Do you not think that it's more than just a mirror? It can't be just a mirror, right? I mean, like, you've got like money being funded to make certain types of films, certain types of TV programs. Like, do you really think like the Kardashians would be that popular if there wasn't people funding it, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like Bill Hicks said, right? There's no point in, fear, sex drives sales, and so yeah, there's no point in having an objective, fair, reasonable mirror. No, it needs to be the darkest of mirrors.
But that's my point, right? It's not just a mirror. It's a mirror and it's being manipulated, or what? Not manipulated, maybe, because that's quite nefarious sounding. But it's being influenced by people with money.
Because an evil cabal with a plan to manipulate you, it would be about more than just short-term greed. But that's what it is. It's just a bunch of people trying to sell a little bit more tat. And I'm sympathetic. Like, it's easy for me to be like, I don't have a TV, right? Like, it's not something I'm interested in. But like every asshole that says that, I watch stuff on my laptop. So what's the difference?
On YouTube.
Exactly.
You feel better about it.
But the thing is, I'm entirely sympathetic when you live in a small flat in a crowded city. Like, you do want to invest in entertainment and electronics. It's not particularly nice out there. You can't afford to go to the fancy places surrounding you. So
I mean, like, now
it is a cheap and efficient
more or less can't, right?
Entertainment, right?
It's tricky. How can we relate that to the ethical consumerism, or conspicuous consumerism? Do you think it's just then that the mirror is just like the base that we want to see on whatever platform, TV, YouTube, whatever? We just want to see rich people. We're just somehow like addicted and obsessed with that. And then that feeds the vicious cycle. Is that what you reckon is going on there?
The sad, pervasive trap of perpetual capitalism. As soon as people go, I want something more ethical, I want something, I don't want to buy from big chain brands, I want to buy something nice and ethically produced, morally made, that gives back to communities. There's an app for that. There's a product for that. Like, and there's someone on Instagram showing off, here's me, I did this, it's good. What I found quite interesting is, as this just becomes a worse and worse, more competitive race to the bottom, a lot of these entertainers these days, and this has been for a while actually, they're not actually that rich, because why would anyone give them money in their hands? That's a very short-term transaction. What you can do is give them a car. So if someone's in a big rock band, give them a Ferrari, and then they will drive around the Ferrari. The paparazzi will take pictures of their Ferrari.
Yeah,
they will take photos on Instagram of their Ferrari. These people who we look up to often don't have that much money. They have loads of flashy things, but they don't buy them with their own money. They got given them, because that's the best billboard to put them on, is a famous, attractive person.
Sponsorship and all that stuff is similar on YouTube, right? Like people get sponsored with certain products.
And so that's my main point is, beware the hype, fear the hype. Don't hate the individuals involved. Fear the system.
Could there be a bias here at play? Because this whole idea of like showing off, it's a bit like my point earlier about like Musk could be like a secret donator, right? And we just don't know. What about like people who are into like the ethical consumerism, and it's more expensive and they just don't show it off and they just do it because it's like the right thing to do, or it's the better thing to do, even though it's like, yeah, maybe it's futile, but it's still better than the shit. Like buying a fair trade t-shirt is better than buying a child labor t-shirt, objectively. Yeah, it's ideologically, it's still kind of messed up, but do you know what I mean? Like there's still maybe an undercurrent of people buying all that stuff, not making a big deal out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure the group is there. I think Zizek is very true in warning people that consuming better products is not the solution. The solution is to consume less.
Yeah.
And in general sense, so not just consume less materials, but we need to try to consume maybe less experiences as well, right? Because we want it all, right? We're the kings and the queens, and we want to be experiencing the world. We want to go to every little corner of the world. Whether we put it on Instagram or not, and most people do put it on Instagram, all the places they go to, but even travel is consumerism. It's cultural consumerism. It's the only reason why those people want you there in the first place is because they're dependent on tourist income to even survive within a system that is out to burn them, right? And we're talking about the Kim Kardashians of the world. The West is obsessed with the Kim Kardashians of the world to improve their social wealth and their status. But how about the third world, the second and the third world, that simply want to catch up to the glories of the first world, right? Like, how can we blame their social upclimbing, right? Look at China, right? They have massive growth in wealth all across the society, and they're obsessed with it. That's the main thing of their culture, right? They want to grow in status and wealth. That's super important for that whole class of people there. Can you blame them?
Empathize with them and hate ourselves, right? Like likewise, if someone's lower middle class and wants to just do a bit better and make their dad proud and make their wife think they did a good job and not have to say no to their kids as much. Like, it's easy to be sympathetic when you talk about it abstractly about third world poor person, but we just all have that instinct to do a bit better for ourselves, and I can't think of a system that's going to stop that.
So we're all on the monkey rock trying to climb a bit higher, right? And there's only a few on top, and we descend from monkeys, but capitalism is definitely driving this monkey rock to be a lot more competitive and ruthless than it otherwise could have been. It's destroying certain social bonds.
I think there's importance in the nuance of the words. So, social distancing is the wrong way to term it. It's physical distancing, right? And I'll just pick you up on something you said earlier. And what I mean by that is, we shouldn't be limiting ourselves socially. We should be having more interactions. We can have more calls. It's easier than ever to pick up the phone and talk to someone. And you said before, like, God, we shouldn't be addicted to these experiences, right? But again, experiences are fine. It's just if you have to jump into a metal tube and get fired by jet fuel to get there. There's loads of experiences you could have. Before this even happened, me and my wife were saying, like, we've been traveling so much in the last couple of years. Like, how much of this country have we explored and experienced? And I hope, for all sorts of reasons, not least the lockdown, people come outside when this is all over with bright eyes and are super excited to stop taking things for granted and try and do things that don't involve traveling across the world and don't involve, they'll be more grateful of the little things, in effect.
Of course. It's like, have you ever given up some food that you like for a month or 2 months, and then you eat it again? Oh, it's amazing. Do you know what I mean? It's the same with the lockdown. It's like here, being in my flat, going out to the shops once a week for 20 minutes. I was going a bit mental at the end of it, but then when I could go outside to run, that was one of the best runs I've ever had. Destroyed my legs for 3 days during, but that feeling was amazing. Yeah, so I think you definitely get, Chris, that's something like that's going to happen. I think we'll see maybe a resurgence of like more local tourism within provinces, regions, countries, or nearby countries, and maybe there'll be less jet setting. I think it will still happen, right? Because there's plenty of people who maybe it's more necessary for them in a sense, but I think it will be reduced for a while at least. And we'll get a reappreciation, go back to the good old days before low-cost travel, right?
Maybe, but I'm afraid I think the whole conspicuous consumerism thing is still going to be very powerful. Is that we identify with what we consume. We show our social status and wealth through what we consume. And to get this down on a massive level, I'm not sure Corona has really done it. And people have been isolated for 2 months, a bit more here, a bit less there. And people are dying to get back to their old patterns of life. Everywhere.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hope, but we all know that when we come out of this, we'll be in a period of austerity because... more than ever, maybe. The economy needs feeding, so throw some misery on the fire. I think the main takeaway point I wanted to hit home with here is that it's very easy to judge and to hate, be that the hipsters who are buying things that maybe we thought they couldn't afford, virtue signaling conscious capitalist habits when in fact you later find out that there was a problem with the supply chain, to people that... So what an interesting thing I've seen is that those who are against salespeople, right? Like people who look down on salespeople, that's a disgusting job. And they do, something more creative or whatever, right? And I think that's a form of this like snobbery, right? And this is the amazing thing. You can judge someone on almost any criteria, right? You can judge a billionaire as being, but yeah, they're not generous enough, right? Like, or they are, but they make a press release about it when they do it. Or they are, but they do it for the wrong reasons, right? And likewise, like you can look down on a salesperson and be like they're part of the problem because they sell, and you're like, okay, but in order for there to be engineers to have great ideas, like that business doesn't function unless there's people who are prepared to sell. And that's quite, honestly, for anyone that's done a hard sales job, it's, I wouldn't say broadly dissimilar to going down a mine and like just boring, repetitive work that has to be done by someone that you're glad you're not doing it. Like, and that's the main point I want to hit on, is that it's very easy to judge anyone, and almost no individuals really are part of the problem. Even the billionaires we've described, probably examples of better people than a lot of people we know. So, and I don't think judgment helps. I don't think scorn, criticism, judgment is what's going to get out of this. I think some of the most beautiful examples I've seen have been positive role models, people that are enjoying life, not with material spending. Like, and if you see someone like that that's able to enjoy a day just with friends, just with music, just just with something social.
What about this idea of simple living? Like this idea of, because it ties into both of these points really well, right? It ties into what you're just saying there, Chris, about like just spending quality time with friends and family, with people you love, and then also Moraine's point about the solution being less consumerism rather than more, or kind of better consumerism, right? Our friend and guest Lewis from Searching for It, his podcast did a really good couple of episodes on that, tackling Thoreau, Jack London, Into the Wild, all of these kind of people who were trying to escape from society, but maybe not escaping, but maybe some kind of simpler living. I mean, what do you guys make of that? Do you think there's something to be said for it?
It seems to be the sustainable option right now.
I speak a lot to people that lean towards that. It's also a privileged position, I think,
to some degree,
because this is what the point I was trying to make with the third and the second world. It's the people that come from very simple lives that aspire to have the lives of the royalty that we have here. But I think there's a point to be made for this conscious consumerism, because we're in this consumerist trap, right? We're not. You're never going to change the system as an individual, right? This whole question: is it the system or is it the individual? Well, in the end, it's always the individual, because that's the only person that you are. You're not in control of the system. So changing the ways you consume and changing the ways you talk to other people about your consumption is, I think, the only thing you can do. Vote, create political power, get people on your side, change your ways, be a role model. And in that way, live a life that is either less consumerist or better consumerist. So there are wiser choices to be made. I do think so. But the end game is not keep your consumerist lifestyle the same way we have right now, because we're already just simply stretching the resources of our system. And we can't change the system. So if we're stretching the resources of our system, we'll need to use less resources, and we're all responsible for it in our own way.
The funny thing is, the example I was going to give was, like for me, I don't need much. You guys know me. I travel mostly for work. I don't need much, right? I'm quite happy staying indoors. The main thing I'd like in my life is the ability to hang out with friends. Like I wouldn't need to really buy anything particularly. That's easy for me to say, because I think in other ways my life is comfortable. I do entirely sympathize, as I say, for people that don't live near their family, don't live near the friends they grew up with, had to move to a new city for a new job because that's where work was. And so now they're bored, lonely, frustrated, and they go out and they meet people and they fill that hole in their life that this transient life that so many of us live in has made. But the point I was going to lead on to is I think, I'll be fine with less, but I'm about to have kids, right? And I want everything for my kids. I don't want to deny my kids. And it's a story I've heard so many times about the mum or the dad that works and works and works and is never at home because they're working to pay for the kid to go to an expensive school. How often do you think the kid would just rather see more of their parents?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think like quality time, do you know what I mean? Whether it be in person or like us online, it's really important. It's really important.
Trying to take it home a bit more positive, I think, although I do appreciate that, coming out of this, it will be business as usual for a lot. There's two things that the whole world has learned to do really well over the last couple of months. And one is make time for people. And we were saying at the start, I've had better conversations with people than I have in a long time. The other one, just even the idea of flattening the curve, is long-term thinking that we haven't done on a global scale in a long time. It's been a while since we've been like, and if we can just get, okay guys, like if we have more examples of that where we're like, here's what the world needs for the greater good, for the best result in the long term. I honestly, and okay, there are examples of people not listening, but by and large, the majority of 7 billion people have done what they've been told is the best thing for the most people in the long term. And that shows that those that doubt that humans are capable of that, I think a lot of people have been disproven wrong.
Right.
Exactly.
A lot of these greed is good libertarians, like, that's not the view of people I've seen over the last couple of months.
Yeah, so I've quoted this in previous podcasts, the book of Dutch writer Rutger Bregman, who's talked about the fact that humans inherently are kind and cooperative people, and this has been proven by science time and time again, and yet mass psychology of society still thinks that we're not. And this is just the biggest fallacy of human thinking, maybe. And I do hope that we can go from this into mass solutions to other problems. Climate crisis would be one that society should band behind. And I do think it's given a lot of positive things. For me personally, it's also, again, got to do with things you said, Chris. It's appreciate the things that you have, right? Appreciate the life that you have. And I think the entire world needs to do that, right? From in the West, the rich West, but also the poor third world. Realize the positives that you have, that maybe living in the rich West is not going to solve all of your problems. It's just going to introduce different ones. There maybe you do get to spend more quality time with your children in a different environment. Whereas here,
I bet
two parents work.
So many kids who are seeing more of their parents than they ever have.
Right. So count your blessings, right? And I think that's definitely something a lot of people are learning.
And that I think will stick. Like the families that stay together after this, the couples that stay together, like, if you can get through 3 months stuck in a small house with someone, you'll probably be okay. And honestly, you'll probably miss them like hell if you have to go away for a couple of weeks after that. That's about as positive as I can spin it after our dystopian everything capitalism touches is evil opening.
I think it's nice if we can end it on a positive note like that.
Yeah.
Makes a change.
So don't have any quotes they've been reading lately?
About capitalism. Been reading this Zen Buddhist sayings and poems for every day. Have you got one, Meringue?
No, I've not really been reading about.
Let's invite the listeners at home then. If you could send us your inspiring quotes. We're clearly running low.
Yeah, send it.
I mean, I'm already impressed we got on an inspiring note with capitalism, right?
That's my magic. That's why I start with.
So the inspiring quote would be think of now, but
a bit more positive.
I don't think that's fitting either.
Wine is hope. That's my positive message for the day. Thanks, guys. I enjoyed that. I hope you did.
Yeah. Cheers, dudes. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Do you have any songs for us, Meringue, that you've been working on? I know you've got your new machine.
I mean, not really for anything. It would be dystopian. I don't know if we want to end on a dystopian note after making such a positive note. I make dystopian techno music.
It is good. It's really good. We should definitely put some of yours, man, on the next episode. On another one. Maybe on the next episode we do.
I just got the new acid machine. I got to learn how it works and everything. So
got a smiley face on. You're not allowed to make dystopian music with the smiley man.
You can make happy acid, but
is it acid?
What is acid? I don't know acid.
It's when the smiley, the 90s rave.
To make the
it's 90s rave. Yeah, it's 90s rave. Yeah.
Happy hardcore.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for that. I enjoyed it greatly. A bit of a, what's it called? A bottle episode. That's the TV term.
It needed to come out. It was bottled up.
that's a good one. But no, it's just when like for some reason an episode falls through and then the writers have to get around it. We need to make an episode now. Go.
Right.
What's the topic?
We've been thinking about it for a while though, so I think it was timely.
And you can see all of these strands we were able to pick apart, and then we
to try and tie them. Yeah.
All right, right stuff, guys. I'm gonna
look if
Dungeons and Dragons game.
Looking forward to have a more concentrated single episode maybe next time. Right? Like
what would you guys fancy?
One very clear subject, not such a big one as capitalism and consumerism, which is all like worldwide, everything involving.
Oh, we did have a personal question I was planning on asking you guys as well. Like, so if you found $1 billion tomorrow, like, how would it change you? How much of a conspicuous consumer would you become?
I saw a really good. Maybe this can be the quote. I saw this today. Shouts to Karime for this one. It was something she posted, and it said, "If I won $1 million or $1 billion, I would buy the rights to Friends, the TV show, strip away the canned laughter, and then stream it all online for free so that people can see how shit it is." And that was not funny at all. And I was like, "That's quite a good answer to that question." Do you know what I mean?
It's funny how like tastes change, right? So at the time, people say if you watch stand-up comedy from 40 years ago, it's like that wouldn't fly today. And at the time, look at what else was on TV. Friends was brilliant, and also canned laughter. People used to have a lot more time for that.
Yeah.
And nowadays, cynical, realistic ages, people have no time for that now.
I would, if I won £1 billion, I would try and somehow make Ricky Gervais the Prime Minister. That'd be hilarious. He'd be such a good Prime Minister. Either him or Will Self, or maybe Zizek instead of Boris.
No, these people don't need to waste time sat in meetings deciding things. Aren't they their most powerful sharing ideas, right?
Yeah. What about you guys? What would you do with $1 billion? Oh, by the way, I'd also like make vaccines mandatory. Shouts to any conspiracy theorists.
So if you had infinite power, if you were the world leader.
So that's a different thing, right? $1 billion and infinite power are not the same thing.
Yeah.
So your first thing is you'd try and become a populist billionaire president.
This is where the genie in the bottle is gonna screw you over, right? Because he's like, you just got $1 billion, and now you're trying to do things that require infinite power, and the genie's just gonna laugh at you and be like, "Nope, get another wish."
It's funny because Trump proves that having $1 billion doesn't guarantee you the White House, but fame does. Fame's the big one. Right? Being famous got Arnold Schwarzenegger the governorship and Donald Trump the presidency. Like, fame is more important than money.
Yeah, but what did it get Paris Hilton?
I mean, she reinvested, got more famous, and oh God, I'm embarrassed. I know this, but she is now taken a step out of the limelight because she's got 6 businesses all doing quite well. She got what she needed from the game, and then she got out of the game. She quit while she was ahead. She walked away from the table.
What would you do, Moraine? Wait, neither of you answered the question. What would you do?
Yeah, I'll answer. I'll probably invest it in psychedelic treatment centers.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because I think I'm not the only one that thinks. There's a Vice video here in the Netherlands from a young kid that first made his money in Bitcoin, then took most of his money out of Bitcoin and invested it in American Canadian cannabis.
That first though, like loads.
Yeah, but took his money out of that and is now putting it into psychedelics research and facilities. So he's like one of these just people that's trying to sort of read patterns on the internet, like with Bitcoin, and trying to see like this is where things are going to. So it's that I think the society is getting ready for it on the one end, and on the other end, I think it is going to have a very tremendous impact on a very individual level of mental health within the system that we're currently living in. And we need to have a sense of connection to the wider planet and to each other. And psychedelics is just going to guaranteedly give that to you because this is just what it does.
You got to save this for next episode, bro.
Yeah, but I'm just,
I reckon it's got to be the next episode.
A little bit
As
of
a really nice bridge.
Yeah.
And Chris, what about you? What'd you do with it?
I tried so hard to keep it secret, and I reckon I'd be good at it as well. So I would be pretty good. Like, you know me, I'd still dress like shit. Like,
Skateboard everywhere.
That was when there was a bar tab, and I'd be like, I got this, guys. I got this. I love that. You know, when you meet someone and they're working really hard, and you're like, if you had £5,000 right now, would that help your business? And they'd be like, yeah, I'd spend it on this, and this. You're like, cool. No, I'd just love to give a small amount. Like, and again, when you had $1 billion, 5-10K would be a small amount, but just to everyone that would help.
UBI, basically, a form of UBI.
Yeah, micro loans.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm a big believer in
Microfinancing.
quit your job and start your own thing. And so
But this
with
is
anyone like that, like it would be.
there's a lot of success with microfinancing in the third, second world.
And the comparison with UBI is key because I wouldn't make them fill out forms or jump through hoops.
Here's the money, go and do something good with it.
There was a celebrity that had a university scholarship for C students because he's like, they're all for fucking people that get all A pluses. Like, I was a C grade student. I'd quite like to
I get anything.
C grade students succeed, right? And that's it. Like, don't make him jump through hoops. Don't go for the guy with the most flashy presentation and so many founders have to spend time building a pitch deck to impress assholes with money that know nothing about running a business.
Well, because this is still this monkey rock thing, right? This is still trying to climb higher on this monkey rock, showing how much better I am than you. Look at my presentation. I deserve to be on the higher rung more so than you.
And this is the
usually the one that says that they deserve to be on the higher rung, not necessarily always the one that really deserves to be on the higher rung, right? Usually the assholes want to be on the highest rung, right?
Well, this is the hack,
rock.
Right? Like if you're better, if you say you deserve it earlier than someone that is looking to genuinely earn it, you'll probably get ahead quicker. And it's the Tesla story, right? Like the official story of Tesla is they're ahead of the curve, they're investing money at Silicon Valley solving a big problem. What some people closer to the tech say, and what some people closer to the finance say as well, actually, is that no, that's not what's happening. Like, it's just Silicon Valley hype and the ability to just hoover up money faster than anyone else. And then they can hire all the good people and then they can do things quicker, right? Just the Pareto law, money is exponential once you get that first mover advantage. Amazon's strength. Now, I think Bezos deserves his money. He literally reinvented retail. That's got to be worth being rich for. Like, that's
No. Wait. Amazon was not the only online warehouse in the existence of this planet.
Nope.
It was just the one that had the luckiest position
I disagree
from.
What about Argos, Chris? What about Argos?
Yep. And do you know how long the Argos website takes to order from, and the lag on that, and the delay, and the terms and conditions? What he did was make the website load in under a second.
So streamlined.
And he made the delivery come in under a day. And everyone else went, it's not cost efficient to do that. And he goes, cool, I'm going to lose money for a year and do it.
But Chris, his program and development team did that. That wasn't Jeff Bezos.
I'm sure, but you could have hired his program and development team.
Yeah, but we agreed.
They were available for
episode,
hire. They were looking for jobs on LinkedIn.
We don't have 300 grand to invest in that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, but a lot of people bet a lot of 300 grand, and he got lucky, better than anyone else. And partly because long-term thinking. This is what I respect. It's not short-term capitalist greed externalities. He's always thought long-term about customers at the expense of short-term gain. And that's the dream that capitalism sells, which so rarely is. And that's why I like the Jeff Bezos story. He started with a 300K loan. He was a hedge fund manager, having graduated from Ivy League, probably Princeton, right? So sure, advantages, not fair. We couldn't all be that. But he's a better asshole than most of them. Like, he thought longer term than a lot of them.
I don't know, I guess we could get into it again. And we should have Toby on here talking about the, human rights violations in Amazon's employment and stuff like that around the world.
I did
squeaky clean.
I was on the list to visit an Amazon distribution center. They had a thing when all the bad publicity was coming out. You could sign up and visit the center and see for yourself.
Yeah, that wouldn't be like a tour of North Korea at all, would it? Do me a favor. Yeah, come and see how good the working conditions are. Like, yeah. All right, we believe you. Maybe a little recommendation for the listeners. I saw an amazing film by the writer Ken Loach. I don't know if you guys know him. I only found about him recently.
Doesn't he make really grim northern?
Yeah, but that's what the impression I had, because he's the one who wrote Kes, right? But his newer
From Bo
films are really
Selector.
good.
Kes.
Kes, yeah.
Chris, if you stop recording, I'll put my video on.
Oh, but I liking recording. Just put a mask on. Be anonymous.
But what I wanted to say quickly was that he's written a few films lately that talk about all of this. And one was Sorry We Missed You, all about delivery drivers and this whole like entrepreneurship, but really you kind of get trapped in this system, you know, and he's got to pee in a bottle. You know, I was thinking Amazon workers have to pee in a bottle sometimes because they didn't get a lunch, like a pee break or whatever. But it's very critical. It's very interesting film, really done. And it's not just bleak. Do you know what I mean? It's not just some bleak film about northern life. It's very touching and very human stories within the film, you know, as well as the capitalist critique.
The people that listen to the end of these things are a weird bunch. So I hope you enjoyed the pee in a bottle film.
Yeah.
More than the faux inspirational positive.
Weird coda at the end.
I'm going to stop recording now so I can see Meringue's lovely face. If we get 10,000 subscribers, I will share a photo of Meringue. There you go. Special reveal.
Yeah.
Smash like.
Smash the like. Smash subscribe.